Welcome back to Narrative and Beyond with Michael Adekombi. I still have my guest here. He's a thought leader, someone called him, and it's the truth. He's the regional director of Hort International Business School, and he's been based in Dubai for over a decade now.
13 years now.
Oh, yeah. 13 years. So, what would you say about I know I've been to Dubai just once. What would you say about the business landscape in Dubai? Just generally.
It's really exciting. Like, there's so many things that are happening here, and the rate and the speed of growth and development is outstanding. And what's happening now, which has made actually in the last, I would say, 2 years, we've had so many people from different parts of the world relocating to Dubai to set up their businesses here. So the talent pool is just insane.
Wow.
The opportunities for growth is just insane. The community you can build around yourself, people from different parts of the world, people trying to achieve and do big things, is just insane. And so, yeah, it's a really great place to be. I love it.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question that just came to my mind now. Working in a multicultural environment as a leader, how do you manage people from different culture, different race, different background, and all of that? How do you manage them effectively? You've been doing that for years now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So what I want to do, let me tell you originally how it was. It took me quite a while to adjust. So when I was, for example, when I was in the program, in the MBA program, I had people from different parts of the world, from the States, from Latin America, from Egypt, from different places. And I remember one of my team members was a very lovely lady. I won't mention her name, but she's a very lovely Egyptian lady. She's a good friend of myself and my wife right now. But I remember at the time, when I would, when we were working on stuff, I'd say, "Hey, morning, how you doing?" And I would stretch out my hand, and she would do this, or she would. So later she had to tell someone to come tell me and say, "Look, in my culture and my religion, like, we don't shake men." I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." That's one example. I'll give you another example. I had a business meeting with a really amazing, group of Emirati gentlemen. And like me, coming from Niger, like, you sit down, once you say a few things, you go straight to the matter, because we all drove like distances for that meeting. And I remember that day, we just said, "Hey, hi, how are you? Everything's good, blah, 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 blah." Coffee, we sat down, and I said, "Okay, look, so the reason why," and I wanted to start getting into it, and the guy was like, Habibi, wait, first, coffee, family, how are you? Yeah. and this was like a serious meeting. And so we first spent like maybe 5 to 8 minutes talking pleasantries. But that rebuke I never forgot, right? And it really emphasized the importance of, of cultural awareness. So if I bring this back to the office and to, the corporate space, what I've learned to do is to really ask questions. So if somebody does something or says something, curiosity is what's going to help you out of most situations. Oh, that's interesting. Do you want to tell me why you responded that way? Or do you want to tell me why you don't want to do this? And then you'll be so amazed when they open up and they share things with you. And it's a constant learning process, to be honest. But I think curiosity is your safest bet, because my natural default predisposition, especially coming from Nigeria with, our work ethic and all of that, is, okay, this needs to happen. This is how you do this. And then when I would encounter people that would perhaps not act in a particular way that I expected, but I knew that apart from that, they're good in everything else, I would just say, "Hey, look, Sarah, I noticed XYZ. Do you want to tell me why? I'm curious." And without judgment, without anger, without everything, the moment they started opening up to you, or they start opening up to you, you start realizing that there's so much cultural context behind their behaviors. And in their part of the world, that is a perfectly normal thing to say and do and behave. It just makes a world of difference. So curiosity is the key to handling those situations.
So that's trying to learn from the perspective of the people you are working with.
Yes.
Help you to appreciate their own culture and their own leanings as well, and why they are doing what they are doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it makes you a better leader, because if somebody feels that their cultural or religious leanings are not respected, then the interpretation of that is this leader doesn't care about me. I'm just a tool, right? And so it's really, really important that you engage with an open-minded curiosity, put your ego aside, and then have a conversation.
Thank you. So how do you see AI and digital tools? We've had a lot of innovations recently and they are still ongoing. There's just so much evolvement of different tools, digital tools, AI and all of that. How do you see the impact of all of this in education in the nearest future?
Okay. So this is something I spend a lot of time thinking about, a lot of time researching, and so I have some thoughts on this. So I'll tell you what's going to happen in the short term and then what's going to happen in the long term. All right. Right now, in the short term, the gap between the people who are actively utilizing these AI tools and those who are not will dramatically widen. I see it in the workplace already. I have team members that utilize AI for lots of tasks, and it's cut the work day down. So what would take them 8 hours normally, they get done in like 4 hours, and the quality is even so much more enhanced, right? But over time, that gap is going to diminish. Now, in terms of the direct impact on education that I see it happening, it's going to have all the way down from postgraduate all the way to KG. You're going to have a lot more personalized learning. If you think about classroom environments right now, the professor or the teacher is teaching everybody at the same level, communicating with everybody at the same level,
True.
and testing them at the same level of competence. And you're going to have some people who are higher and some people who are lower. But with a lot of artificial intelligence, the direction that it's going to really drive personalized learning so that people can learn things in ways that are best for them at their own levels, and they can continue to fine-tune things that they may have missed in a general class. That's one. The other one is that it's going to really, really hone skill acquisition, because if you think about what learning is, it's error correction. So I teach you a particular skill, you try it, you don't do as well, you see where the problem is, you try it again, you do a bit better, you see where the flaws are, you try it again. So it's this loop of reinforced error correction. Now, what's going to happen with AI is that you're going to have a lot of very, very advanced tools that help you learn specific skills. Like, for one example, I'll give you, if you look at the space of conversational AI, that's like AI that talks back and forth to you. You don't even have to type, right? That talks back and forth to you. I know that this is going to play like a major role in AI developments in the coming years, in education and so many things. I have some things that I'm personally building with conversational AI right now. So I'm really learning, like if you think about me specializing in something, that's really what I'm learning and diving deep in. But I told you in the short term, there will be an increased gap between those who can pay for these tools and not. But in the long term, that gap is going to decrease. I was looking at some research papers yesterday. You have a lot of people say, oh, how about the kids that are in Kenya or the kids that are in, Nasarawa, in some village in Nasarawa? Like, how are they some of them can't even read or can't even spell. So what's going to happen? But if you look at a lot of these conversational AI tools being developed, they have tons and tons of languages that, in Hausa, in all of these things. So these kids, even if they don't know how to type, they can ask in Hausa and say, oh, what is XYZ? And they will get an AI speaking back to them. Right now, there are companies like Sesame that are developing what we call AI companions, conversational AI companions that will be on a device or on glasses that you wear. And you're walking around and it's seeing what you're seeing and you're asking it questions. And it's delivering, it's talking back to you in your ear. Wow. And so the rate of learning and education is going to accelerate. I can tell you some bets that I can tell you. You're going to find very soon, I would say maybe in like another 8 to 10 years, you're no longer going to you won't need 6 years again in secondary school. Like everything they teach you in 6 years in secondary school, with the right kind of AI tools, you will learn them in 2 years, right? So we're going to have to take another look at that educational model. In the future, you're going to have, not now, but in the future, you're going to have a lot of unbundled courses where somebody wants to learn just one specific skill set. And with a lot of, AI tools, you can acquire like massive skills in that just one thing. So yeah, like it's going to totally transform the space. It already has begun. At Halt, we embrace, when ChatGPT came out, a lot of schools were panicking and saying, oh, students are going to use this to cheat on exams. But because already we've done away with exams, we didn't panic. And we encourage our students to use it on the projects that they're working on. If you look at our course curriculum for marketing, we have generative AI, we have all these things that we're teaching them to use. We're embracing it. So the institutions that want to stay stuck in their ways, they're going to get left behind. Students just won't care about going there anymore. And the institutions that are embracing AI and weaving that into their curriculum, they're the ones that people are going to be going to for whatever skills that they need to acquire in the future.
Thank you. There's a question that came to my mind just now, because I have people who come to me, young people that I mentor, a lot of that, who want to take masters, some MSc, some MBA, whatever. They just want to scale up, in terms of their qualifications. What would you say, a young professional who want to scale up their qualification in the corporate world? What would you say should be what they should look out for before they select the school to go for, to take maybe an MBA or an MSc or whatever they want to take, or a PhD, whatever? What would you say they should look out for in a school that can add that value that they are looking for? Because once you make the payment, it's all over already. No school will refund you and say, oh no, I've changed my mind, I don't want to come again, Yeah. So what would you say they should look out for?
So a couple of very simple things, right? Again, I'll say something I said before. Knowledge is now a commodity, right? Like whatever curriculum they tell you the professor wants to lecture in class, ChatGPT can recreate it. And so you cannot go to a school where all they do is teach theoretical concepts. You need to pick a school where you'll graduate with a skill set. Management, leadership, marketing, whatever it may be, you're graduating with a skill set. And even if they say, oh yeah, we're a practical school, the question you asked me, which was a phenomenal question, was how exactly do you drive practical learning and skill acquisition? They need to be able to defend that. That's one. Two, because AI is such a huge part of the narrative right now, you want a school that has woven that into their curriculum, right? You want to see, oh, okay, look, what are you guys doing about AI? How's that baked into the curriculum? And three, and this is really important, right? Because a lot of times when we think about a business school or a university, we're thinking in terms of the skills, the certificate, which are good. But one of the most important things you really want to walk away with from an investment like that is a very good network. So you want to know the alumni of this school, like how big is the alumni body? Which parts of the world are they most concentrated in? Like what are some of the notable guys doing? Because if you think about it, your alumni network, as knowledge becomes more obsolete and skill becomes the things that really determine who is what, as the rate of connectedness on social media continues to accelerate, those relationships that you build in the 1 or 2 years of your master's program, like they are invaluable for the rest of your life. These are people that you work together with for 1 year. You guys were hustling, you were working on projects at night, abusing each other, doing all of that. But you build these very, very strong relationships that could last you. And so if, for example, you're in Nigeria, you're thinking, oh, maybe I want to get it. My brother wants to get a job in Canada or the US, or I want to get a job in Canada or the US. You know that you have a network of alums that you can reach out to, and somebody there will know somebody in the company that you're applying to. Like you can't put a price tag on that. So if I wanted to summarize, like I said, you want to make sure it's a school that focuses on practical learning, and they need to defend it and not just tell you. How do they do it? You want to make sure that you're going to a school that has a big emphasis on artificial intelligence, because it is the future. And you want to make sure you're going to a school where the alumni body is strong and can actually help you open doors.
Awesome. So you've been in the Middle East, so to say, for a while, and you've seen how you've seen the potentials of that region and all of that. Because the truth is that migration is a human phenomenon. I mean, phenomenon. You cannot stop it. People will always move from one part of the world to another. It has been from generations to generations. It's normal. Now, what unique challenges and opportunities do you see around the corporate world in that region?
Okay. So is this from the perspective of somebody who is looking to get a job, or is it from the perspective of people who are already here?
Both. But majorly from perspective of people who are trying to look at opportunities to migrate to the Middle East.
Okay. All right. So what I'll do is I'll tell you this right now. For people who are trying to get jobs in Dubai, right, or in the UAE or in the Middle East, you need to realize that everybody around the world now wants to come work here. And so when you're applying for roles, you're competing against people who are applying from the US, from the UK. When I advertise job openings at Halt, every day we get like maybe 800 to 1,000 applications every day. Like yeah. Like, so, but that doesn't mean that you because every day I hear people getting jobs. Every day my wife tells me, oh, this person just relocated because she got a job. She's now here in Dubai. So this is not to say that there are not an abundance of opportunities, because there are companies opening up here all the time. They're hiring all the time, but the competition is fierce. And so to the person who's looking to apply for opportunities here, you can't just go on LinkedIn and just click easy apply and just be clicking that, and you're hoping that that's going to get you in. And let me tell you something. I tell this to some of the young people that that go to my church, and I tell them, I say, look, listen, when I post a role and I get like 1,000 applications every day, so maybe at the end of 2 weeks I have 14,000 applications, but maybe the number of people who actually try to connect with me on LinkedIn to say, hey, Ayo, I saw that this role was posted at Halt. I'm really interested in having a chat to see if I'm a good fit or something like that. Maybe out of 14,000 people, only like 3 or 4 will do that. So what I'm telling you is, although there's a lot of competition, the bar is very low. The bar is very low. And so if you take a few extra steps, like right now, there's so many AI tools you can use to find people's email, like whether it's, finding the hiring manager and emailing him personally, or looking through your LinkedIn connections and saying, who do I know that knows this person that can give me a warm introduction? Because I'll tell you one other thing, right? Because after 2 weeks, you have 14,000 applications. You can imagine the hiring manager that has to look at 14,000 CVs. So if somebody says, oh, if Michael, for example, says, Ayo, I know this young man. He's an amazing guy, and he told me he just applied for the role at Halt. It will be a breath of fresh air for me to review your referrals, application. He has to go through, because most of the companies here, we're very structured in terms of due process. So the person will have to go through the due process, no extra favors. But the fact that you can guarantee, because you're coming through a connection, I will at least read that CV. You're actually doing me a favor by sending me a referral, right? So again, if I come back to your question, for people that are looking at opportunities, they have to recognize that it is a fiercely competitive market. You're competing against everybody from everywhere else in the world, but the bar is very low, because everybody just does the barest minimum and prays that they get called for an interview. And if you just do a few steps more, you will, like, your outcomes will be so much better.
That summarized something in my mind that I heard before, that whoever you want to meet is just one person away from you. You just need to know one person that knows that person, and then you connect with that person. Thank you so much. Wow, it's been so loaded today. There's just so much you have said that I need to digest myself. So what's the best career advice that you've ever received, and how has that shaped your journey in your career as a professional?
Amazing. So I would say the best career advice, it's not going to be what a lot of people expect. So when I worked in Access Bank, I had this amazing group head. Like, he's one of the best leaders and managers I've ever had the pleasure of working under. His name is Shagun Ogbonewo. And I remember at the time when I got the offer to study at Holt, I worked in a bank. I was I had my baby was just 3 months old at the time, young wife, all of that, all my life savings, by the time you convert all these things to dollars or dirhams, you know our naira now, it goes down. So I had this big choice to make. Should I take every single thing I've earned and invested in this MBA? And so I went to meet Shegun one night after work. I say, hey, Oga Shegs, which is what we used to call him. I said, I need some advice. Like, on the one hand, I've worked so long in the organization. I'm doing well. I was one of the youngest managers at the time in the bank. I was due for a promotion literally in like 3 months, a promotion that I'd worked for quite a while. And I said, hey, look, I'm trying to decide whether or not I should do this. And he told me something that I never forgot. He said, look, I'll never be afraid to invest in yourself. Like, always bet on yourself. And that really shaped my trajectory, because one, it gave me the courage to put the money down to take the MBA. But even after I graduated, for a long time, I made a commitment to myself that I would spend 5% of everything I earned on educating myself and improving my skills. This was after I graduated from the MBA. So I would spend thousands and thousands of dollars on courses. And that just helped me continue to grow and to acquire skills. So there are many things that I can do now that a lot of people who have had a similar career trajectory may not be able to do, just because they never, like, I follow my curiosity. If I'm curious right now about conversational AI, I'm building AI agents on my own that I talk to at night and stuff like that. I taught myself that. When I wanted to, really, really get a handle on digital marketing, I learned that. My brother and I wanted to create a tech startup. I taught myself everything that had to do with hiring, an engineering team, building a brand, so all of these things, but all of these are possible because I chose to invest a portion of everything I earned in acquiring skills. There's something I read it a long time ago. I wish I remember who posted it so I could, give them credit. But somebody said that if you buy a book, the person who wrote that book, oftentimes they've spent 30, 40 years acquiring that knowledge. And then you get that book for $8. Like, there's no bigger deal in life than that. And so if I see a course that interests me, if I see a book that interests me, no matter what, I buy it. Right. So that kind of comes back to my career advice, even though I summarized Shegun's own by saying never be afraid to invest in yourself. But really, it's just continue to stack skills. Like, just you can be better than everybody that works on your grade level in your organization by just choosing to learn more. You'd never be satisfied with what they've trained or taught you. You go and you bring skills and you import them. There are a lot of AI tools that we're using within the organization at Holt right now that I introduced, because I researched them, I learned about them, I utilized it for helping my wife's business, and then I brought it into the organization. And it's a tool that a lot of people use globally. I trained our entire global Holt team in San Francisco last year. I trained them on one of the tools that I'm talking about. And all of this again came because I was constantly looking at how to acquire skills and how to improve and develop myself.
Wow. Awesome. I'm saying awesome and awesome again because so much things to glean from everything you've said so far. Oh wow. Okay. So that I will not keep you for too long again. Let me just ask one or two questions. Then we can hear your parting shot, so to say. Okay. If you could change one thing about the way companies approach learning and development, for instance, you've worked with a lot of corporate organizations, so to say, from your role, as the director of as a regional director in Holt International Business School. You've actually even led at EF Education Fest as well before coming here and all of that. So, what would you want to change in the way organizations approach learning and development? Because this is very, very key. I know this is within the purview of the HR professionals and all of that. What would you want to change in the approach of organizations to learning and development from your perspective as someone who is coming from this space of education development and all of that?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. It's also a question that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, because I think about what my team needs, what my kids need, and some of the deficiencies I see in the way learning and development is handled. So I'll tell you, one of the big flaws that you see in a lot of systems right now is that it's a very top-down approach. So a company or somebody in HR says, okay, we need to have XYZ taught and XYZ number of learning hours. And so they design a program with an external partner, and then they shove that down, or they, kind of enforce that across the organization. But every team, every department is uniquely different. Even every leader is uniquely different. And so it needs to be a much more bottom up approach. Like, what are the things that these particular team members need right now? And the thing is, a lot of organizations already have the tools in place to do this, because when you do your annual reviews, people write out, like, what are and managers and team members, they agree on what are the skill deficiencies that need to be closed. And so you should take that data and you use that data to design learnings that would help these guys. So that's one, the top-down approach versus the bottom-up approach. The other one that I see, that I think it's a massive opportunity, is a lot of times when these learning and development things are designed, they design like a 1 week or 3 day retreat or session, and people come and they learn. But if you think about the way like real learning happens, it's sustained over time. And so instead of saying we're going to design this 1 week learning retreat for our team members, or 3 day intense series of workshops, you should take that and you should stretch it out. Maybe you reduce the length per episode or per encounter, but you make sure you have these opportunities for repetition that happen, so that people are actually acquiring the skills. Because I know how many, and again, like, not to knock any organization, I've worked in the past for some organizations, and they spend all this money and they send you off somewhere for 3-4 days, and you have fun, you eat chicken, you meet people, you learn something, but 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, you've forgotten it, right? And so creating this system where you have engagements at interval to reinforce the learning, and then you also tie it in actually into departmental feedback, and so you're able to get feedback from either line managers on how, or you get them to even self-report how they're using these skills. That would really drive home the learning so much more. So those are kind of like the two big gaps that I see right now. It should be bottom up instead of top down, and it should be stretched out with consistent engagement so that people can actually learn those skills. I'll give you just one example of what I mean, and one of the things I'm working on. So there was a point in my life where I really wanted to become a better public speaker. Like, I would see some people that would really inspire me. So back in 2018, I spent $2,500 on this course. It was meant to, I won't say the name, it was meant to be like a super fancy course. And after I was done with the program, like, I can tell you one of the things that they said, okay, like, storytelling is important, but that was it. Like, I left without skills. I got some information, but no skills. Another time I invested some money going to, there's a particular place in Dubai where they teach speech writing, how to write speeches. And so I went there again for like 2 to 3 days. They give us chicken. We learned stuff. We analyzed some of Obama's speeches, and I walked away. But I walked away again with information and theory and nothing practical, right? And the flaws in all of these systems is that you're having a one-off engagement with information, and there's nothing that's driving the skills that you want to acquire. And so right now, that's informed. Like, one of the things that I'm, working on, I'm doing this actually for my kids, because again, like I said, communication is such a very important thing. I'm building like an AI instructor that they can engage with, and, they can give sample speeches. It will give them feedback. They'll give just like 10, 15 minutes every day, engaging with that, right? To really drive that skill acquisition. And so now, companies and learning departments, with AI tools, with the right sort of thing, they can really drive skill acquisition. There's never been a time as opportune as now for companies who are serious about upskilling their team members to really think through the model of education they're using.
Awesome. Wow, awesome. Okay, I think I should just take your parting shot now. Do you have any book you want to recommend to our to our viewers, are there books that that comes to mind that you think has impacted you that you want to share? That's one. Two, what would be your parting shots? For
Okay.
young professionals
All right.
yeah.
So in terms of books, like I've read it, like there's so many, like I'm obsessed with books. But if I had to pick just one
Or two.
or two, right? I would say Ray Dalio's Principles. Ray Dalio, like that book changed my life. Like it changed my approach to life and to living, right?
Wow.
So that's a really, really, really good book. And then for people who want to really really grow and develop, there's another book called Mastery by Robert Greene. And
Mastery. Okay.
Mastery.
Okay.
Like when I read that book, I made a singular decision. I won't share what that decision is on the podcast, but
Yeah.
I read that book and I made a decision that has informed a lot of the things that I've pursued afterwards. And I think it's really, really, because, when people are young, when I was young, I had so many things that were vying for my attention. I want to do this. I want to become this. But if you're able to arrive at a skill set you want to grow and develop that will open doors for you in the future, then I think Mastery is a really good book to look at, right? It just teaches you, teaches you how to learn, actually. It's one of the books that is great for teaching you how to learn and how to learn fast and well. So those are two books that I would really think about.
Awesome.
Then if I wanted to share my parting thoughts, like, whenever anybody asks me on a podcast or an interview, like what my parting thoughts are, usually I go to what is uppermost in my mind in this season of my life, right? And, I had a conversation with my daughter last night. I have a 12-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son. But I was speaking to her about this, and it's the same thing that I want to share with you. There's a word called agency, agency, and it just basically means the drive. It's hard to define, but the drive and the willingness to shape life to conform to what you want. And I think it's easier for me to illustrate it. You have two sets of people. Maybe they're both in Nigeria. Maybe they're both looking for jobs. They're both pissed at the economy. One person says, in this Tinubu government, you can never even win. You can never do this. You can never do that. And then they go and chill with their friends and they have a beer and pepper soup in the evening. And the next day they wake up and they complain again. There's another person who says, things are really, really tough, but man, I no go agree. Like I must make something of this my life.
Succeed.
And then they sit down and they are constantly pushing and trying to chart their way through life, right? And I say this, it's really uppermost in my mind because even somebody might look at me and say, hey, I've got it all figured out, but I also have things that I'm still pursuing. I had a conversation with my wife. She owns an interior design company in Dubai, and she's been struggling with some challenge, but I said, look, agency, okay, what can we go do? Like, what are we going to do? When I was speaking to my daughter yesterday, I was giving her a heads up and saying, hey, look, there are a lot of things you're going to be asking daddy to do for you that I will refuse to do, not because I can't, but because I want you to develop agency. You start developing it and you create that culture. Every time you find yourself feeling like giving up or feeling like, oh, life is happening to me, like you have to fight back. Life has to happen for me. And so if you ask me to, leave people with a parting thought, it's, like you have to seize agency by the hands and tell yourself, I don't agree. I'm going to create the life. Like, again, within the framework because I'm very spiritual. I'm a Christian and I'm a believer. So within that framework, but man, like, I don't agree, like I'm determined, regardless of how the situation looks, to make something of it. And I'm going to keep pushing and fighting until I push my way through. So that's it. Like, no greed. Like,
wow. Thank you so much. So it means that your faith also impacts your growth so far, your achievement so far, your success so far.
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. It does.
Awesome.
Because if I were to talk on that, like, I truly believe that there's a creator that's looking out for me, that loves me, and everything that happens, like, the story hasn't finished. It could better. All things are going to work together for my good. Setbacks,
right.
And I've had a lot of cases in my life that has reinforced this over and over and over again. Something happens and I think it's a calamity. And then a few steps down the road, I look back and it's like the best thing that could have happened to me. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ayo. It's been a great time with you on this platform today, Narrative and Beyond. Honestly, I need time to to I don't know how to put it now, to meditate on some of the things you've said. I've really gleaned a lot of wisdom. Some things I will need to listen to all over and all over again. And I'm hoping that our viewers will do the same thing, that you will glean wisdom from this. And he has taught us a lot of things today. One of the things that kept ringing since he said it is, you need to learn to learn. You need to learn how to learn, so that you keep developing yourself and all of that. And I heard something from someone who said you have to be selfish with your own personal growth. I was speaking with a professional in London, and when she said it, I was like, when she said the word, you have to be selfish with your personal growth, it didn't occur to me before, because at the end of the day, it is about your life, really, and you can determine how you end up in this life. Thank you so very much. It's been a wonderful time with you. I'm hoping that I'll bring you back again. There are other aspects of you that we have not touched. Yeah, that we have not touched, really.
But it's a pleasure, and thank you so much for having me on. Like, I'm so legit, I'm so proud of you, Michael. Like,
thank you.
You're doing so well. It was fortuitous how we met, many years ago.
Yeah.
But you've been such a stellar, honorable, admirable, inspirational gentleman. And I'm so proud of you for putting this podcast together. I'm sure a lot of people are going to get so much value from it. And so I'm definitely rooting for you, and will continue to support you as you progress.
Thank you very much. Thank you.